I never imagined that my entire world would shatter in a single moment. I never imagined that the people I called my family, the ones who should have loved me unconditionally, would show me how little I truly mattered to them, and I never imagined that the man I married and the children I raised would turn my life into a storm of betrayal and pain, all because of a single lottery ticket. My name is Lisa, and this is my story, a story of love, betrayal, heartbreak, and finally revenge that none of them will ever forget. Growing up, I was never the favorite child in my family. My mother Margaret adored my older sister Claire, and she spoiled my younger brother Adam, while I was left in the shadows. Claire was praised for every little thing she did. My mother would boast about her beauty, her talent, her intelligence. Whenever Claire achieved something even small, my mother acted as if she had won the world. But when I achieved the same things, I was met with silence or worse, criticism. My father Robert was no different. He was stern, dismissive, and cold. He rarely had a kind word for me. If Claire was the pride and Adam was the baby, then I was the burden, invisible unless someone needed to be blamed for something wrong. I grew up with that heavy weight in my chest, always longing for love that never came. So when I met Daniel, I thought I had finally found someone who saw me for who I was. At first he made me feel alive. He made me believe I mattered. He would call me beautiful. He would hold my hands. He would tell me that he could not imagine life without me. He promised me a future filled with love and laughter. I clung to those promises like a drowning person clings to air. When he asked me to marry him, I said yes, without hesitation, because I believed I had found the family I always dreamed of. At first, life with Daniel seemed hopeful. We had 2 children, Emma and Jacob, and I poured every ounce of love into them. The love I never received, I gave to them. I wanted them to feel safe, cherished, and supported. I wanted them to never feel invisible the way I did. I stayed up nights caring for them. I worked hard to keep the household afloat. Even when Daniel began to change, he had once been sweet and attentive, but slowly he grew distant, bitter, and lazy. He drifted from job to job, always finding excuses, while I shouldered the responsibility of bills, food, and stability. I told myself it was just a rough patch. I told myself that as long as the children had both parents, it was worth enduring, but inside I felt the cracks growing deeper. Daniel would snap at me when I asked about money. He would belittle me in front of the children, and though Emma and Jacob were still young, I could see confusion in their eyes. I kept pretending that everything was fine, because I wanted to protect them, but my heart ached every single day. Then came the day that changed everything. It was a cold, rainy Tuesday. I had $5 left in my wallet, only $5 to buy groceries or something useful. I stood in front of the store staring at the bread and milk, but then my eyes drifted to the lottery counter. Something inside me whispered, try it. So I bought the ticket, my hands shaking as I scratched it under the buzzing lights, and suddenly the numbers aligned. My breath caught in my throat. I had won $18.4 million. I just stood there frozen, staring at the paper that could change my life forever. But instead of joy, an uneasy fear crept in. What if money did not bring happiness? What if it only revealed what I secretly suspected all along, that the love of those around me was conditional? What if my family, my husband, even my children loved me only as long as I struggled, but would turn cold when they thought I had nothing, or when they smelled money in the air? The thought haunted me until I knew I had to test them. I had to know the truth before revealing anything. I started with my mother. I called her. I told her I lost my job, that I could not pay rent, that I did not know where to go. I hoped she would show me kindness, but she sighed heavily.
Lisa, you're 32 years old. You should be independent by now. We can't just drop everything to take care of you. Maybe Claire can help. Your father and I have our own lives.
My chest tightened. Her rejection was quick and cruel. I turned to my father. I told him I was scared, that I needed help just for a little while. His voice was sharp and irritated. Then he hung up without another word. Next was Claire, my perfect sister. I lied and told her I received a small inheritance from a distant relative. Her tone instantly shifted from distant to sweet. She gushed with excitement.
Oh my God, Liz, that's amazing. You know, I've been working on this boutique idea, and I just need some startup money. If you could loan me $50,000, I'd pay you back double in no time. It would be such a win for both of us.
She never once asked if I was okay. She only saw an opportunity. Then Adam, my younger brother, the one I defended as a child when he got into fights, the one I covered for when he failed classes. I told him I was struggling and needed him to support me. This time he laughed, actually laughed, and said,
You, needing me? That's funny. You're supposed to help me, not the other way around.
His words echoed in my mind, cruel and dismissive, but still I had my children and my husband. Surely they would not fail me. I turned to Emma and Jacob. I told them gently that Mommy had lost her job, that things might be hard For a while I expected hugs, reassurance, loyalty, but instead I saw hesitation. Emma looked away and mumbled, "Maybe we could go live with Grandma." Jacob shrugged and said,
"Dad always says you are the reason money is tight." Maybe he was right.
Their words stung worse than knives. My own children repeating the poison their father had fed them. Finally I tested Daniel that night. We sat at the table, the winning ticket hidden in my pocket. I told him, my voice breaking, "Daniel, I lost my job. I do not know how we are going to pay rent. I am scared." He leaned back, his arms crossed, eyes cold and distant.
"Lisa, I can't keep carrying dead weight. Maybe it's time I think about my own future."
My heart cracked open. I whispered, "What are you saying?" He shrugged with no shame. "Maybe this marriage is not working. Maybe I deserve better." I stared at Daniel across that dimly lit table, and I felt my entire soul collapse inside me. The man who once promised to love me through everything, the man who was supposed to be my partner, my safe place, my family, was looking at me as if I was nothing more than a burden, a mistake to be discarded. My heart pounded in my ears and I wanted to scream. I wanted to ask how he could do this after all the years I spent holding us together, after all the nights I worked while he drifted from one job to another, after all the sacrifices I made to keep a roof over our heads. But the words would not come. They stuck in my throat like sharp stones. He leaned closer, his tone sharp. "You cannot expect me to drag this marriage forever, Lisa. I am tired of being tied to someone who has no ambition, no success. I need a partner who can make life easier, not harder." And I froze, because I knew he was not talking about love anymore. He was talking about money. He wanted ease, luxury, a life where he would not have to try, and I realized he never loved me the way I loved him. He loved what I provided, and now he believed I had nothing left to give. The next days blurred together in a haze of rejection. I kept testing them. I kept reaching out, hoping someone would show me a sliver of kindness, a flicker of loyalty, but each interaction cut me deeper. My mother avoided my calls. My father muttered cold excuses. Claire continued sending me long messages about her boutique and how just a little money could change everything. Adam laughed at me again and called me pathetic, and my children began to spend more time with Daniel, ignoring me as if I was already fading from their lives. I tried to talk to Emma one evening. She was sitting on her bed scrolling her phone. I sat beside her and whispered, "Emma, sweetheart, do you not see what is happening? Do you not see that I am still your mother? I love you more than anything." She glanced at me briefly, then back to her phone, and muttered, "Dad says love is not enough. We need stability." I felt tears burn my eyes as I tried to hold her hand, but she pulled away as if my touch was a burden. Then Jacob, my little boy who once ran into my arms after school with drawings and laughter, he looked at me with eyes colder than any child should have. "Mom, maybe you should leave. Maybe Dad would be happier without you. Maybe we would all be happier without you." Those words crushed me. I stumbled out of the room, shaking, unable to breathe. I thought Daniel might at least shield me from their growing coldness, but instead he fueled it. He whispered lies about me to them when he thought I could not hear. He told them I was weak, that I was holding them back, that he would give them everything if only I was not in the way, and they listened to him because he was their father and they trusted him. My mind spiraled. I barely ate, I barely slept. I would sit in the kitchen staring at the winning lottery ticket hidden in the drawer. It was almost cruel, this tiny slip of paper that could change everything, but instead of joy it brought me misery, because it revealed the truth I always feared. I was never loved. I was tolerated, used, discarded. One night, after Daniel had shouted at me again, after Emma rolled her eyes at me and Jacob slammed the door in my face, I broke down completely. I sat on the bathroom floor clutching the ticket to my chest, sobbing so hard I thought my ribs would crack, and in that moment I wanted to disappear forever. I wanted to vanish and let them all see what life was like without the woman they treated like trash. But then a small voice inside me whispered, "No, Lisa, do not disappear. Make them see, make them regret every word, every betrayal." The next morning I packed a bag. I told Daniel I was leaving for a few days. He barely looked up from his phone. "Good, maybe we will finally have some peace," he muttered. Emma and Jacob did not even say goodbye. They barely glanced at me as I closed the door. My heart shattered, but beneath the shards a new fire began to burn. I drove to see the only person who had ever shown me kindness, my Aunt Grace. She was my mother's sister, but unlike Margaret, she had always treated me with gentleness. When I was a child, she would sneak me cookies. When I was ignored, she would praise me when no one else noticed. She opened her door, and her eyes widened when she saw my tear-stained face without her arms, and whispered, "Oh, sweetheart, what have they done to you?" I broke down again, telling her everything: my mother, my father, Claire, Adam, my children, Daniel, all of it. She listened quietly, stroking my hair, and when I finally showed her the lottery ticket, she gasped, "Lisa, this changes everything. But why do you look so broken?" I told her I could not reveal it, yet I had to know the truth, and now that I knew the truth, I did not know what to do. Her eyes softened and she said, then you show them, Lisa. You show them who you are, and what they threw away for days. I stayed with Aunt Grace, regaining strength. She cooked for me, she spoke life back into me, she reminded me that I was not worthless, and that I deserved love, and slowly my broken spirit began to harden into something stronger, into resolve. I would go back, I would face them, and I would show them exactly what they had lost. When I returned home, the house felt different, colder, as if I was already erased. Daniel was on the couch with a smug smile. He asked, did you finally find somewhere else to go? I looked at him calmly for the first time, and said not yet, but soon his smile faltered just slightly, but he quickly masked it with arrogance. Emma and Jacob barely spoke to me. They hovered around Daniel, laughing with him, whispering with him, as if I was an outsider. In my own family I felt like a ghost drifting through the walls, unseen, unwanted, and every time I looked at them, the pain twisted deeper, but I held onto my secret weapon, the ticket still hidden, still waiting. The final test came one evening. I told Daniel, my voice soft but deliberate, Daniel, I need help. I have nothing left. I cannot even buy groceries. I need you. His eyes gleamed cold and sharp, and he said, then leave, Lisa, take your misery and go, because we do not need you anymore. He said we as if my children were already his allies, as if I was already cut out of their lives, and in that moment something inside me snapped. The years of pain, the years of rejection, the years of being unseen burned away, and in its place grew a fierce, unshakable fire. I would not beg anymore. I would not cry anymore. I would not let them crush me again. I would rise, and when I revealed the truth, they would all understand what they had done. The next morning I woke up with clarity. For the first time in years, I was no longer the invisible daughter, no longer the unloved sister, no longer the weak wife, no longer the mother begging for scraps of affection. I was Lisa, and I was about to show them all exactly who I was. I held the ticket in my hand, staring at it as if it were a weapon, and in truth it was not a weapon of paper, but a weapon of truth, a weapon of power that they could never take back. Once revealed, I planned carefully. I called my family and told them I wanted to meet. I pretended my voice was shaky, desperate. I told them it was important, that I needed their support. It was almost amusing how quickly they agreed. When they thought I was weak, my mother sighed, but said, fine, we will come. My father grumbled, but agreed. Claire chirped happily, asking if we could meet at her house. Adam said sure, as if it was nothing, and Daniel smirked when I told him. He gathered Emma and Jacob and announced to them that they were going to finally be free of me. They all came thinking they were walking into the final act of my humiliation, but they were wrong. We gathered in Claire's large living room, my family sitting with expressions ranging from annoyance to boredom. Daniel sat with Emma and Jacob close by his side, and I stood before them, my heart racing, but my face calm. I looked at each of them slowly, letting the silence stretch until they grew uncomfortable. Then I began to speak. I told them how I had tested them, how I had reached out with lies of desperation, and how each of them had responded. I told my mother that her cold rejection broke me. I told my father that his cruel words still rang in my ears. I told Claire that her greed revealed the emptiness of her so-called love. I told Adam that his laughter cut deeper than any blade. I told Emma and Jacob that their betrayal shattered me because I had given them every ounce of love I had. I told Daniel that his words, his threats, his abandonment had destroyed the last illusions I had of our marriage. They shifted uncomfortably, my mother frowning, my father shaking his head, Claire trying to interject with excuses, Daniel rolling his eyes, Emma and Jacob refusing to meet my gaze. But I held up my hand, silencing them all. Then I reached into my bag and pulled out the lottery ticket. Their eyes widened, confusion and curiosity flickering across their faces, and in that heavy silence I spoke the words that would change everything. I won $18.4 million. The room froze. Claire gasped. My father leaned forward. My mother's eyes darted with sudden calculation. Adam's mouth dropped open. Daniel bolted upright, his smug mask shattering. Emma and Jacob both stared at me with wide eyes, and I felt a rush of bittersweet power wash over me, because now they saw me not as a burden, not as an invisible shadow, but as the person holding everything they ever wanted. And yet they had already shown me exactly what I meant to them. They began to speak all at once, my mother insisting she had only been firm for my own good, my father claiming he only wanted me to grow strong, Claire babbling about how she loved me and only wanted to share in my good fortune, Adam apologizing with a grin, already trying to angle for a share, Daniel stepping toward me, voice trembling, saying he did not mean what he said, that he was angry and lost, and that we could make it work, that we could be a family again. And my children, oh my children, they suddenly clung to me, Emma whispering, Mommy, we did not mean it, we were just scared, Jacob crying, saying he wanted me to stay, that he loved me, but I had seen their true faces, I had heard their true words, I knew the truth, and money could not erase it. I looked at at them, and for the first time, I did not feel small, I did not feel broken, I felt strong. I told them all, no, you had your chance to love me when I was down to nothing, you had your chance to stand by me when I was weak, but you chose to betray me, to abandon me, to crush me when I needed you most, and now you want me because of this ticket, because of what it can give you. You do not love me, you never did. Their faces twisted with shock, some with anger, some with desperation. My mother begged, Lisa, please, do not do this, we are family. My father barked that I was being dramatic. Claire reached for my arm crying. Adam swore he would change. Daniel fell to his knees whispering, Lisa, please, please, do not leave me. Emma sobbed. Jacob clung to my sleeve, but I gently pulled away from them all. I turned to Aunt Grace, who had been silent until now, and I handed her the ticket, and I said, Grace, you were the only one who ever truly saw me, who ever cared for me without asking for anything in return. This belongs with me, but you will be by my side as I build a life away from all of them. She smiled through tears and held my hand tightly. I faced my family one last time, and I said, you will remember this moment for the rest of your lives. You will remember how you betrayed me, how you abandoned me, and how I rose without you. I walked out of that house with Aunt Grace by my side, leaving behind the stunned silence of those who once thought they owned me. I did not look back, because there was nothing left for me there. In the weeks that followed, I started over. I moved into a new home far away from the suffocating shadow of their betrayal. I invested wisely. I gave to charities that supported children who felt unloved and unseen, just as I once did. I found peace in helping others, in building something that mattered. I surrounded myself with people who valued me for who I was, not for what I had, and for the first time in my life I felt free. My family tried to reach me. They called, they sent letters. They showed up at my gate pleading, begging, sometimes shouting, but I never opened the door. I never answered, because I knew their words were empty, driven by greed and regret, not by love. Daniel tried to file for reconciliation, but the court saw the truth, and I walked away free. My children wrote letters saying they missed me, and though my heart ached, I knew they had to face the weight of their choices. Maybe one day they would understand, maybe one day they would truly regret. And so I lived, not just with money, but with strength, with dignity, with freedom. Every morning I woke up knowing I had survived the worst they could give me, and I had come out stronger. And every night I slept peacefully, knowing that my revenge was not in hurting them, not in punishing them, but in showing them that I could thrive without them, that I could rise when they wanted me to fall, that I could smile when they wanted me to break. And that was the greatest revenge of all.